In the heart of rural Poland, where fields meet the slow rhythm of lakes, stands a church so vast it seems to have wandered here by mistake. This is Licheń Stary, a village that carries one of Europe's largest basilicas, a tower soaring 141 metres, and an origin story born from vision, war and faith. A wounded soldier's promise, a shepherd's prophecy, and an icon said to bring healing to the sick. Today, pilgrims still come, their footsteps echoing through marble halls and up to the Golgotha Hill, drawn by devotion, wonder, and the quiet power of belief made monumental. This is Licheń Stary, where small beginnings reach for heaven.
Dzień dobry and welcome to A Brit in Poland. With this channel, I travel across the country, I bring you the culture, and I show you just how amazing Poland is. So I invite you on my journey. If you want to see more, I have Facebook and Instagram profiles, which you will find links to in the description below. And if you want to really help out, you can turn to my Patreon or Patronite accounts, again in the description. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy this video. Please like, share and subscribe. Do zobaczenia.
Licheń Stary, a village in central Poland tucked between Konin and the lakes of the Greater Poland Voivodeship. Population? Just over 1,200 people. Its history stretches back to the 13th century, long before the basilica reshaped its skyline. Once it was a quiet agricultural settlement. Today, it's home to Poland's largest church, visited by over 1 million pilgrims a year. The contrast is almost poetic, a modern village whose faith built something meant to be seen from miles away. A place where simplicity meets spectacle, and where a story of devotion grew into an architectural landmark. And I'll be honest, I hadn't even heard of Licheń Stary before a friend mentioned it to me. It sounded like one of those small Polish villages you pass through on the way to somewhere else. But as I arrived, everything slowed down. The air felt still, almost heavy with quiet. The lake shimmered, impossibly clear, mirroring the sky. And then, over the tree line, the basilica appeared. And even from a distance, it doesn't just dominate the skyline, it owns it. The scale feels unreal. Golden domes glinting in the sunlight, the bell tower climbing higher than seems reasonable for such a peaceful place. It's one of those moments where you stop walking just to process what you're seeing. It's beautiful, strange, and somehow humbling, a monument rising out of tranquility. The story of Licken begins long before this basilica was ever imagined. In 1813, a Polish soldier named Tomasz Kłusowski was wounded in battle. As he lay dying, he prayed for help, and in his vision, the Virgin Mary appeared to him, wearing a golden crown and holding a white eagle against her chest. She told him that if he ever survived, he should find or paint her image and place it somewhere for people to pray. Kłusowski did survive, and years later he brought a small painting of that vision back home, hanging it in the woods near Grambling. Decades passed. Then in 1850 a local shepherd named Mikołaj Sikatka began to have his own visions of the Virgin, warning him that people had forgotten faith and that suffering was coming. When cholera swept through the region soon after, villagers came to pray before the same icon, and many claimed that they were healed. Word spread, pilgrims began to arrive, and Licken's quiet forest became a place of devotion. A soldier's promise, a shepherd's vision, and a village that became a sanctuary. The original painting, often called the miraculous icon of Our Lady of Licken, is believed to have been the very one brought by Tomasz Kłusowski and after his 1813 vision. It's a small oil painting, about 9.5 by 15.5 centimeters, depicting the Virgin Mary with the Polish white eagle on her chest, symbolizing both faith and nationhood. During the 19th century, it hung in a small forest chapel in Grambling, where Mikołaj Sytatsky's visions took place. In 1852, after the cholera epidemic and the flood of pilgrims, the icon was moved to the Church of St. Dorothy in Licken for safekeeping. And when the new basilica was completed in 2004, the icon was ceremoniously transferred to its main altar, where it now resides, enshrined beneath an elaborate golden canopy, surrounded by marble, light, and silence. We opted to camp for this trip, staying by one of the beautiful lakes in the area, a place where pilgrims would come to rest after long walks through the shrines and gardens. Some would sit in silence, others share food or dip their hands in the cool water. From the edge of the small beach area, you can see the basilica reflected on the surface, its dome shimmering like a mirage against the sky. It's strange how peaceful it feels here. After all the grandeur, all the memorials, the sound of water and birds brings everything back to something human, something simple. Locals, they come to swim in the summer, unaware perhaps of how perfectly this calm balances the emotion of what's above. Faith, grief, and daily life all flowing together, like the water that has always surrounded Licken. And Licken, it's not the biggest place, but it's one of those places which it requires a bit of exploring to see all of the different wonders. So with this walkthrough, we're going to start in this kind of little alleyway opposite the one of the main entrances. And there are a few shrines here, and actually a place where you can get holy water. So if you bring a bottle, you can fill it to your heart's content and have some natural spring mineral water that will be useful against vampires. By the lake, there is a statue of the Virgin Mary staring down. And here is the lake itself from another viewpoint. As you can see, an incredibly tranquil setting. And yeah, that's on the right. I didn't get the perfect video, but on the right you can see people filling their water bottles. So now we go to the Church of St. Dorothy. And before the gold and marble, before the vast basilica and the pilgrim crowds, it all began here, in this modest red brick church. The Church of St. Dorothy was built in the mid-19th century, at the time when this was all still a small rural parish. In 1852, the Our Lady of Licken icon was placed inside, and it was here that the first great waves of pilgrims came, during the cholera years seeking comfort and healing. For more than a century and a half, these walls held the heart of the devotion, prayers whispered by farmers, soldiers, and families who believed the Virgin listened. Even now, after the icons moved to the Grand Basilica, this little church feels alive with that history. Then you have the memorial gardens. So the gardens began as kind of a grassroots acts of memory, pilgrims literally marking the land with their stories. Here, among the paths and flower beds, lie memorials to Poland's pain. You have rows of crosses, remembering the victims of war, occupation, and tragedy. Miners, soldiers, resistance fighters, families lost in exile. You will see monuments to Auschwitz, Katyn, Siberia, and Warsaw, each marked with plaques, rosaries, and small tokens left by visitors. And you can say that the air feels heavier here. Every shrine tells a story, not of miracle, but of endurance. Some are simple stone markers, others are sculpted figures of the Virgin Mary holding out her arms over the names of the dead. Together, they form a kind of open-air requiem, a landscape of remembrance where faith and grief coexist. And yet, amid the sorrow, there's peace. Gardens carefully tended, birdsong in the background, pilgrims moving quietly from one shrine to another. It's a reminder that faith in Poland has always been more than belief. It's survival, remembrance, and hope written into the land itself. And it takes a bit of time to explore this area, and it's quite easy to miss bits and pieces. So I recommend doing a full, investigation. And if you know something about Poland's, history, especially some of the famous battles, some of the famous disasters, then these monuments will mean a lot more to you. And I was just kind of checking which names I knew, and the ones I didn't knew, I was like, okay, I need to learn more about these. And there are, in amongst the shrines, there were also these kind of interior sections, which you can see elaborately decorated in marble. Incredible. Looks like a family tree here, but I think probably not. Stained glass with colourful glass imitating gemstones. And everywhere you look, it is telling you a story. And often those stories are very unpleasant ones, but ones that Poland will never forget. Because in all the countries in the world, Poland has perhaps gone through some of the darkest times. And these dark times have heavily shaped the Polish people. It's one of the things that makes it such a powerful story of resurrection. The country resurrecting like a miracle through all of the terror that it had to endure over the years. And we go to Golgotha. So the path from the Memorial Gardens leads towards a stone rise, Golgotha Hill, an artificial Calvary built entirely by hand. Construction began in 1976, built entirely under the guidance of Father Eugeniusz Mikulski, who was a Marian priest who later initiated the Basilica project. And it was built by pilgrims and local volunteers. It took more than a decade to complete. The hill was consecrated in 1987, long before the basilica itself was even finished. And it rises about 25 meters high, crowned with a simple iron cross visible from across the sanctuary. The climb is steep, winding past stone walls carved with the Stations of the Cross, each relief heavy with emotion, the faces raw and human. And along the way are small chapels tucked into the rock, niches with statues and plaques left in the memory of loved ones. Climbing the hill, the rock face suddenly flashes with large panes of coloured glass. Not offerings, but part of the original design. Installed in the 1970s and 80s, these glass inlays were cut at a Polish glassworks and set into the concrete to catch the sun, turning this man-made Calvary into a play of light through stone. Among the masonry and stones brought from the Holy Land, the Mount of Olives, Tabor, even Jerusalem, small anchors to the places this story remembers. The atmosphere here is different, quieter and more personal. You can feel the strain in your legs and the sound of footsteps echoing against stone. The murmur of prayers carried by the wind. And reaching the top, the view opens. The basilica below, the lake beyond, and the surrounding fields stretching to the horizon. It's a moment of perspective, the suffering of the climb giving way to peace and light. And in that view, everything connects. Faith, memory, sacrifice, and the human need to rise above pain, one step at a time. So, personally, I thought this area was incredible. It was monumental. I really didn't expect it. And it's one of the reasons I'm going to call this video the Christian Disneyland, because to me it felt like a kind of a ride, because it was kind of emotional. It was very deep. It's the sort of place that made you think and also kind of stare in awe at, the incredible sculptures, the amazing use of color. And yeah, it's just, I've never seen anything like this before, and it kind of blew me away. But finally, moving on to the Basilica, you can get an idea of the sheer scale. From a distance, it looks almost impossible. A cathedral rising out of farmland. It's a 141-meter tower, reaching higher than the towers of Cologne or Notre Dame. The Basilica of Our Lady of Licken was built between 1994 and 2004, designed by the architect Barbara Bieleczka, a project unlike anything modern Poland had ever attempted. It was funded entirely through pilgrim donations, millions of small offerings collected over a decade, proof that faith, when shared, can build something monumental. The design draws from classical and Baroque traditions, yet everything here feels amplified. The colonnade stretching 160 meters, the facade lined with Corinthian columns, the gold cupola rising 98 meters above the nave. Symbolism runs through every detail. The 365 windows mark the days of the year, 52 for the weeks, 12 columns beneath the dome for the apostles, and 7 portals for the sacraments. Even the colour palette, the golds and creams, were chosen to evoke sunlight and resurrection. It's a building that wears its symbolism proudly, part church, part monument, part poem written in stone. And while critics often call it excessive, it stands in its shadow. It feels less like excess and more like devotion made visible. And you can go inside the tower. You have a choice of 700 steps to the top, or you can take the lift for a small fee. And it's definitely worth it for the views. Stepping inside the Basilica, everything changes. The sound outside fades, replaced by a deep, resonant echo that feels almost alive. And then the organ begins. A single note rising, filling the space until it seems to vibrate in the marble underfoot. The music rolls through the vast nave, 120 meters long and 77 wide, crowned by a 98-meter dome. It's more than a melody, it's like the building itself is breathing. Gold columns catch the light like shafts of sunlight. Marble floors shimmer in quiet reflection, and the great organ towers above, one of the biggest in Poland. It's 157 sets of pipes gleaming like bronze reeds in a field of light. And at the heart of it all, high above the main altar, is the tiny icon of Our Lady of Licken, the seed from which all of this grew. In that moment, surrounded by sound and light, the scale doesn't feel boastful, it feels devotional. Not a statement, but a response. Faith answering itself in stone and song. And I was blown away. It was, truly marvelous. And you feel something, it's a very powerful place. And you have to hold it in reverence. It's an incredible feat of engineering, and it's weird to think that it's kind of built kind of in modern times, because it's something that's so classical that it, could be from centuries ago. But what you see inside, I hope I've managed to capture, because you feel like you've stepped into a whole other world when you're here. And at the back of the massive basilica, you actually have a museum, which we're going to get to in a minute. But the Museum of the Sanctuary preserves what the basilica can't show in marble, which is the human side of belief. Inside are votive offerings, old photographs, letters of thanks from pilgrims who came here seeking miracles. And there are also architectural models from the basilica's construction, early designs by Barbara Belichka, and relics from the older churches of Licken. It's quiet and simple, but the kind of place that hums with personal stories. And if the basilica is the voice of faith, the museum is its memory. And actually, this, I believe, was completely free. You could leave an offering at the entrance. So it's definitely worth spending, just a few minutes to look around the exhibits, because they do tell a bit more of the story, but also present you with, some incredible artifacts from around Poland. And we're nearing the end of the video, so let's close things off. So outside the sanctuary walls, the sound of bells fades into the breeze. Licheń Stary returns to its quiet rhythm, a small village of narrow lanes, low houses, and gardens that seem unchanged for centuries. It's easy to forget walking here that one of Europe's largest churches stands just a few streets away. Locals move at their own pace. A cyclist passes, an old couple tend flowers, someone carries fresh bread home. The lake glimmers beyond the trees, the same water that's mirrored pilgrims and reflections for generations. And from nearly everywhere, the tower of the basilica still peaks above the rooftops, distant yet always present, like a watchful landmark of belief. And, for me, that's what makes Licheń special. Not just its scale or even its legend, but the way the monumental and the modest live side by side. A tiny village that dreamed on a cathedral scale and somehow made that dream real. So I honestly really, really recommend visiting Licheń Stary. And you can actually get like a Bolt taxi from Konin. It's relatively cheap, actually. There may be some buses, but we found it was much easier by taxi. And it's the sort of place, I spent a weekend here. I think we spent a couple of nights. And there was a lot to explore, a lot to see. And especially if you're religious, you're going to really fall in love with this place. But alas, all good videos must come to an end. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Please give the video a like. Please subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more. And thank you very much for watching. Do zobaczenia.